Hello group, Jeff here. Today I want to talk about something that's been uh, bothering me for a while, and that's making darks in this hobby. The more cameras you get and the wider your f-stop gets, the more darks you need. And that's become a full-time job. I have enough full-time jobs. I don't need any more. I have a house full of computers, and I would prefer they do the work versus me doing the work. So, uh, as everyone knows, Mallincamsky has absolutely no uh, means to automate anything, which that's nothing against the program. It was never designed as an astrophotography program that could be hooked into other programs. It's more for live viewing. And I don't have a problem with that. What I have a problem with is just the total number of darks that I need from F2 to F14. And we'll take the DS26 as an example. I need bin 1, 2, and 3's darks for just that camera. That's potentially 300 darks if I go from 2 seconds up to 56 seconds, there's give or take, depending on the scope that I'm using. And that becomes weeks, literally weeks worth of making darks. And I don't have time to do that. So in an effort to try and solve my problem, I've scoured the interwebs and found Pulover's macro creator. And I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that right. I'll put a link down below in the show more section. And what this allows me to do is run a recorder that will record my mouse movements. I don't want to learn how to code. I just don't want to do that. But in my day with Photoshop, I made actions like there was no tomorrow. And this is basically like the Photoshop action maker or creator. And it builds, as you do mouse moves or clicks, it will record those positions and create code. So there is some caveats with these two programs, and I'll get that out of the way in the beginning. Mallincamsky and this program don't always like each other. And it's taken me 2 weeks to come up with a procedure that will allow me to make scripts that I can run and that Mallincamsky can execute based on the macros that I've created. And what I've found is that if I broke the what needs to be done at Mallincamsky into little chunks and then save those chunks that I can then use to build bigger code in the macro creator, that seems to work the best. So what I'm going to do now is, and I should also mention is that when the programs start to act up, the fix is you have to uninstall both programs and then reinstall both programs. So it is a little tedious, but that's how much I hate darks. I'm willing to go through that to have the computers automate making darks. And I know that that's not the correct way, quotes, to make darks. I know that. I'm not that concerned. I just need a range of darks that I can use for specific bin levels for specific cameras. And in my case, I need a lot of them. So let's get to it. I'll go to my desktop. I'll shrink this down, and this is the program open. And what we will do is I have Mallincamsky open here. And I don't have the cooler on, so you'll see that I'm currently at 36 degrees C. I have the fan on though. I just don't have the cooler on. We don't need it for what I'm going to show. So let's go back to the macro creator, and I'll make a simple little macro. And basically what this macro is going to do, hopefully, is set the things that are settable, and that would be anything that does not have a slider. So that would be a radio button, a default button, or a numeric input button. And I'm going to set my Mallincamsky up for a run, a dark run. So I will make sure that you want to make sure that these are set correctly. You want to record your keystrokes, mouse clicks, and the intervals, window classes, and window titles. So as long as you have those clicked, that'll give you just the right amount of code that it takes. If you do mouse moves, it winds up with a lot of code that you don't need. And I say code, it's actually it's recording. Whenever you move the mouse like this, it's recording that. We don't want that garbage. So I turn that stuff off. Okay, so let's hit the record button. And I'm going to have to hit F9 to start the macro. And I want to, oops, I just goofed. Let's stop this. Well, X deletes what I just did. So we'll hit record again. I want to select 8-bit, make sure it's 8-bit, white balance, defaults, color adjust, defaults, frame rate, high, that's a radio button, or that's a slider, so we don't do that. Color, flip is also, I don't want to have anything there. Rotate, 0. Region of interest, defaults. Binning, I'm not going to do. Histogram, I want to make this 0. And 255. Close that. No darks, no flats. Black level is a slider. Don't want to do that. Live stack, no. Conversion gain, yes. And the rest I don't need. So I'm going to stop the macro creator, go back to the program, and you'll see I now have code where there was none. And if I run this code, it should do exactly what I just did. And at the speed I did it at. Now for the settings that like frame rate and flip, I wouldn't normally click on those, but I'm just showing you how the macro creator works. Now after this code is made, I will show you what I did next. I wouldn't have clicked on black level. Conversion gain is going to be finished. So now the macro is done. You can tell by the slider here, or the green bar. What I would do is then, this is the first window. I would make a lot of these. So let's do this 1,000, 200, 200, 200. I found 200 to be the good number for my machine. I won't do them all, I'll just do about half of them so you can see what happens. Oops. Okay, that's enough. And then down here, yeah, we'll just leave that alone. So what I'll do is I'll run this macro again. You can see how much faster the top portion is. So I'm already out of the slow stuff. And that's something that you will have to decide on your own, what the magic number is for your computer. Mine is 1,000 for the pauses where I have a big move. And I'll show you in some code that I've already made. I don't want to save this. So what I have done, and I will open up a Explorer window. And this is a little tip for anybody with a NAS. If you have a NAS and you're saving your darks to a NAS, the NAS will fall asleep. And to keep it awake, what you do is open up an Explorer window and then just go someplace on the drive. And in my case, I'm going to go here. That will keep, as long as this window is open, that keeps the NAS from falling asleep. And thus breaking your macros. Okay, so what I want to do is open up another Explorer window. And I have all of my macros on a drive other than my C drive. And these are my chunks. So if I load this, you will see that it's very similar to what we just made. This is the histogram defaults. And then at the end, I put in a pause of 1 second. And the reason I do that is sometimes when you load or import a macro, for whatever reason, it doesn't import the whole thing. And this is my quick check to just make sure that if I have a pause of 1,000, I know that I've got the whole macro here. So if I run this macro, oh shoot, let me stop it right away. Can't do that with an open window. If I run this macro, you'll see this is my setting it up for defaults, my defaults. And you can see it's much faster. I've gone and cleaned up the code. And it's doing what I want. So now what I would do that's done is now I need to set the gain. So I would import the next macro chunk, which is to set the bin level. And I have 2, or 3, I'm sorry, 1, 2, and 3 bin. And then after that, I would set the gain, and I have 24 to 100. And then exposures. And I go from 2 to 2 minutes, and that's because I have a DS16. So I need, depending on how I'm handling the camera, I could go up to 2 minutes with that camera. And then at the very end, I want to close all my open windows, and I'll do this. And this is how currently I know that the script is done, or the macro is done. So let me show you how I import the macro. We want to do the bin next. We'll do bin 1. You can see I have 1,000 is a minute, or a second, I'm sorry. Then I want to import gain, and we'll do 24 just because. And then I will import exposure. And I don't want to save because I don't want to overwrite what I've already done. So I'm just going to close the windows. So how do we tell the program to go when this script is done? It just stops. So I need to tell it somehow to go from here to here, and that's the go to button. And I need to pick the next one in the chain, and you'll see at the bottom I have go to the next one in the list. And then we'll do the same for this one. We want to pick the set gain. Now we want to set the exposure. And I want to close the windows. Now normally I would have a save macro in here to save the darks, but I don't want to save. I will get into some things about the save macro that's going to be important to you. So hopefully, let's see what we got here. We'll run this, and it will run. Now I made, the way you can see it's broken already. So let me, oh, it did it. It did it, sorry. False alarm. So it's going to set the, maybe. Yeah, it's broke. Hang on a minute. I made a ton of I made a ton of macros I ran a ton of macros last night. And as you can see, I will load one of the ones that I already have made. Bin 1. And what you can see is I have my exposures all set up along with the saves. In the saves, what I do is I create a macro for the exposure of 2, which is this, and then I actually type out the save path or the save file name, and that allows me to change it here. So if my next exposure is going to be 4, I would click on this and control insert, and I would make it 4 and delete the 2. But I don't want to do that. I want to save the 2 and delete the 4. So now if I run this, let's see what happens here. And I'm going to stop the script before, hopefully, it saves the file, because again, I don't want to destroy what I've already done. But this is just to show you that you can make scripts or macros that will control the screen. And yeah, this is working. So now it's going to set the exposure. And now it's going to go to do the save. And I'll let it type it, but I'll stop it right here because I don't want to save it. So you can see that it's doing everything I want without me touching the computer. And it will do this from exposure 2 up to, in this particular case, exposure 56. So I will cancel this. We'll go back and we'll look at it. Yes, it will go to exposure 56. And then when it saves the file, in this case, it will stop it. I just need to add my closed windows. And then basically what that's doing is just, it's doing this. Bang, bang. And this is how I know that the script finished. I haven't figured out how to make it beep. I may never ever figure it out. I don't really care. And this takes about 40 minutes to do one bin level with a specific gain and a series of exposures for that bin and gain. And last count I had for the DS26 was 300 per bin. So if you go bin 1, 2, and 3, you're going to be between 250 and, or I'm sorry, you're going to be between 800 and 900 darks. Now hard drives are cheap. You might be thinking to yourself, why do you need so many darks, Jeff? Well, I have the combination of scopes that I have from F2 all the way up to F27. If I want to go that high, I would never use darks at F27. I would for F14 though. So I need a range of darks that cover that those stops. And I realized that you're supposed to make the darks at the time that you need them, because you're making the dark based on the current settings you have. But I have found, I used to do that, but I have found that by doing my darks this way, the darks are good enough that I don't need to really be messing around when I want to see stuff. I want to see stuff. I don't want to be making darks. And the same goes for during the day when I am working. I don't need another job. So this has saved my life. I can tell you right now. It's taken 2 weeks of my life to figure this all out. And there are problems, but there are ways around these problems. And for me, the problems aren't insurmountable, and they didn't cause me enough agita to throw everything in the trash can. And I now have, if we look at for the DS26, I have all my bin 1 saves right here. I have all my bin 2 saves right here. And I have all my bin 3 saves right here. So all I need to do is just run these scripts the next time Rock gets this new software. And unless he totally changes the interface, which would be a sad day. That I don't need to waste my time. I'm just wasting computer time. Or I'm not really wasting it, but the computer is doing all the hard work, not Jeff. And I don't need to babysit it. I can start a script. I know it's going to take about 40 minutes per script. And at the end of a day, I have about half of these done. And then the next day I would finish it. So you've got, just with this one camera, I've got 6 days of darks right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then I have the DS16 and the 432. Now those two cameras, I only do bin ones with those, but that's still a couple days worth of work per camera. So that's another 4 days. So you could see when I said 2 weeks, I'm not kidding. And now I'm going to have potentially, if Rock decides he wants to make that new camera saleable, that's a camera that I don't think I would be out of bin one with, but I would still need a range of darks. So there's 2 days of darks just for that camera too. So I would be flopping out the 16 for that camera. And what I can do for the group is make my scripts available, the chunks. These, where did it go? Let me go back to here. Oops, sorry. I can make these chunks available on the in the file section of the group. The warning is that these are created on a 1920 by 1080 display, and I'm not sure of the dot pitch, but the dot pitch and the screen size can all affect where the mouse is pointing. So even though it's a 1920 by 1080 display, you may find that the scripts don't work. But I will post them if I get enough interest. So with that said, Jeff is now a happy guy because he doesn't have to mess with darks anymore. I have created the scripts, and they'll just sit on a hard drive someplace until I need them again. And the next time we get a software change and we need to make new darks, I can just start running scripts, and 2 weeks later I got all my darks made. And again, hard drives are cheap, so I don't really care how much storage they're taking up. I know it's in the gigabytes, maybe pretty close to 100. It's a lot, maybe even more. Might be terabytes of data. But for me, it's worth it with the scopes that I have and the different f-stops that each combination of scope has, depending on what I'm seeing with sky conditions and stuff. I just need that range of darks to be able to have an enjoyable night. And now that the computers are doing the hard work, I don't care how many darks I have to make. The computers are doing that. So if you have any questions, I can answer some of them. I am not into doing tutorials for this. Again, this is something that I did for me and thought maybe the group would like to see. It takes persistence, and there are many frustrating moments. With that said, we'll see you in the group. Take it easy.